Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who has a sin at coding well, and today we'll be doing a box office preview for this upcoming weekend, which sees the second weekend drop for Bullet Train. Not looking all that bad, to be honest. 56% drop is what the projection is, though it does need to be performing much better than that and much better than its weekday performance if it is going to have a similar track to a film like Elvis, which right now, as of this point, it's not looking like it's going to have that type of track, even though personally I think that it should, because Bullet Train is a lot of fun, and actually, to be honest, probably one of my favorite films of the year thus far because of how much fun it actually is. But we'll talk about that and some other films coming out, as we don't really have any major releases. At this point in time, we have a broadening of the release from A24 of Bodies, 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 but other than that, really no competition at all for Bullet Train or for any of the other films that have been out now for at least a couple of weeks or more. But before going any further, though, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification on. That way you know every time a video or live stream goes live on the channel. So starting off, of course, with the projected #1 film of the weekend. So repeating its #1 spot is expected to be Sony's Bullet Train, which will make a estimated $13.1 million, bringing its total domestic to $53.8 million. And that is definitely not where this film really needs to be at this point in time if it is going to hope or have any hope of breaking even or even further making a little bit of profit. Again, one of the things that I mentioned in last week's video was how I was hoping at the very least that the positive word of mouth of this movie, as it was having mostly positive word of mouth, would maybe be able to have a similar trajectory to the film Elvis, which started off kind of weak. Projections I was able to make for that movie had the film losing money, but because the legs were so strong on it, it was able to actually surprise myself and many others and make a little bit of extra profit, actually break even and make some profit to boot, doing much better than what anyone would have originally thought based on those first couple of weeks at the very least. But when we look at this film, Bullet Train, it's not looking like it's following the same trajectory, and I'll show exactly where I'm seeing that and exactly why I'm looking at that and I'm saying that in just a few minutes. But just talking here about Bullet Train coming in at #1 at the box office once again domestically. Coming in at #2 is the DC League of Super Pets, which is expected to have a 25% drop. So not a terrible drop for this movie, but because it did have a relatively low opening weekend, it still has a long way to go in order for it to be able to break even. A film that has far past broken even and is well on its way to making $1.4 billion very, very soon, if not already, is Top Gun Maverick from Paramount, coming in at the top 3 spot. That's right, this film is going to be back in the top 3 of the week. And this film has been out now for, 12 weeks? That is truly insane. And it's amazing to boot. Again, the film is probably, compared to Bullet Train, it's definitely, I prefer Top Gun Maverick, definitely much more to Bullet Train. Those are probably in my top 2, top 3 films of the year so far. But the fact that Maverick has been able to hang around for as long as it has, that now it's going to be going past films that are so much newer, right, in many ways, right? It's passing up films like Nope, passing up films Thor: Love and Thunder, passing up Minions, right? All of this is truly impressive for this movie, and it really is, I think, worthy of giving credit to this movie, giving credit to Paramount, to Tom Cruise, to everyone involved with the project for being able to make just a fun movie that not only people want to go see, but wanted to go see multiple times, and multiple times in even large format screens, right? There was a large portion of people that really wanted to go see this film in IMAX, which, having seen it in IMAX, I can say definitely is the way to go for this movie. This is projected to make another $6.8 million, bringing its total domestic to $673.6 million, and even after 12 weeks, still out around over 3,000 screens. This is basically unheard of. It's been a very long time since a movie has been out for around 12 weeks and has still been in around 3,000 screens. Normally around this time is when you have a film, petering out maybe at about 1,000 screens or so, if lucky, right? If lucky enough to be at that point. You're starting to hear about the Blu-ray release and the digital release and stuff like that. But hey, Maverick, They are just pushing that. I believe it was really Tom Cruise, who wanted to push for, I think it was the 120-day theatrical window, which is a little bit more of a traditional theatrical window, meaning that it has 120 days to be in theaters before being available on demand or being available on physical media, which I hate personally just because I want to have it. I want to own it. I want to be able to watch it whenever I want to. I want to dive into those special features. But at the same time, I think that it's great because, hey, people are still going out in droves to go see this film. Look at this change also. A 3% drop from last week. Again, this has been out for 12 weeks. 3% drop is insane. Coming in the number 4 spot here from Universal is the film Nope, expected to make another $6.2 million. Percentage-wise, not a terrible drop of 27%. As I've said with this film, the make or break for this movie is going to be those international numbers, which we are still waiting on, as this film has yet to release in several countries, and we're still waiting on some of the updates from some countries in which there has been an initial release as well. And so this film's make or break is going to depend on whether it has a similar international performance as all of the other Jordan Peele releases. So even though my projections and my charting say that it's expected to lose money, I even made the caveat when I made the video, when I did that breakdown, to say, hey, take this with a grain of salt. This has no international data at this point, and I think that is going to make ultimately the difference of whether or not it is able to break even or not. And then rounding out the top 5 is Thor: Love and Thunder, which is expected to make another $5.7 million. So percentage-wise, not a terrible drop, but as we all know that this film has broken even, has made a little bit of profit to boot. In comparison, though, to the other films in the franchises, especially when you compare and adjust those numbers for inflation, it is one of the weaker of the Thor movies overall as far as worldwide box office. Some people try and throw in to say, yeah, well, the other films at China and blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, we look at individual films as individual films. And at the end of the day, this film is not performing nearly as well as the other films. And also, you bring up the question of, okay, well then why? Let's talk about the why this film is not allowed to be played in China, etc. Oh, that's right, because of its push of woke identity politics and nonsense like that. So in the end, the argument that you use to try to defend why it's not making as much money is also the same reason as to why this film is not making as much money as the previous films in the franchise and has some of the lowest ratings of other films in the franchise. And as I said, Thor: Love and Thunder, the fact that its end result could be even somewhat close to, a little bit ahead of, or a little bit below that of Thor: The Dark World, not a good sign, not a good sign at all. Minions: Rise of Gru, $5.6 million. That's right, you could see this weekend. You could see Rise of Gru, which has been out for one extra week over Thor: Love and Thunder. Minions could actually end up beating Thor: Love and Thunder, and I think that would be a beautiful thing to see. As I mentioned, you have a wider release of Bodies, 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 now going out to over 1,800 screens. As you can see, a massive increase in profit just because it was only out in a handful of screens beforehand. Crawdad Sing is hanging around Easter Sunday, having a massive drop as far as just the fact that it didn't make a lot of money in its initial weekend in the first place. And look what's still hanging around. Elvis, still making millions of dollars in the weekend. We are both like little children. Yes. I love doing that impersonation because that's how I remember it, and that's how I therefore say it. Talking about the line there from Tom Hanks' character in the film. Now, when it comes to Bullet Train, right, you all know I'm a very big fan of Bullet Train. I think that you should go out and see it. I think you should go see it on the biggest screen possible because it's just fun, right? Is it going to blow your brains out with an amazing story that's never been told before? No. But is it going to be a darn good time at the theater? Absolutely. Are you going to want to shove popcorn down your face and laugh with the people next to you because it's so funny and so entertaining? Yes. I would say so. So if you want that, if you miss that, Bullet Train is your ticket. So some of the things, though, as far as, the projections for this movie about why, again, is it possible for the film to be able to maybe be able to have strong enough legs to be able to make enough money, to make its money back, to break even, etc. It's possible, but again, the future isn't looking all that great for it, at least at this point. We have to wait and see what not only the domestic numbers are, right? Right now it's projected to be 13.1 million for its second week. We also have to see what those international numbers are going to look like because there really isn't a lot of room left for this film to go and run with, right? It's released in the vast majority of the countries that it's going to release in. It has just recently released in Indonesia. In Thailand. It is going to open up later on in August in South Korea, Italy, and then in September in Japan. And so, again, it might get some money from those countries, but overall, the international numbers are going to be, pretty stable. And so it's going to be interesting to see where the film ends up falling. As of right now, the film is looking at $71.3 million worldwide. And as you can see, domestically, it is not below expectations, but it's also not above expectations. And this is the reason why I'm saying I right now do not see this film being able to pull off exactly what Elvis was able to pull off, because when you look to Elvis, for one, when you look to the Elvis numbers, you can see right here that its second weekend had a 41% drop. Again, percentage-wise versus the 56% drop, you already see a difference there. Not to mention that Elvis made a little bit more in its opening weekend than what we saw from Bullet Train. But also, when you look at the charting, you can see that Elvis well over-projected its numbers, and that was from pretty much the very beginning. It was at the top of its projections and then just went off the charts, performed so much better. Again, this is the legs coming into effect for this movie, and it helped the film reach $250 million. We're not seeing that right now when it comes to Bullet Train, and so that's why, even though I would love to see this film be able to do that, just right now, the numbers aren't really showing that. And when you do a comparison between these two films, even though the first Friday numbers for Bullet Train were a little bit higher than what you saw from the film Elvis, as you can see, Elvis has won every other day. At the same point of release, Elvis was at 44.7, whereas right now Bullet Train is at 38.9 based off the Wednesday numbers. We don't have the Thursday numbers yet. So again, Elvis is the film that I was comparing it to because this is a film showing you what legs can do for you. You can go from being a projected box office flop to a huge box office success, but you need to have holds, right? You need to have holds from week to week, and you need to have that audience going out to go see it. Looking at the box office tracking, so this was the most recent box office tracking, so it's been several days since I've actually updated it, but the break-even point for Bullet Train is $225 million. So the fact that this film came in underneath Elvis is seeing not nearly as strong of a drop-off as Elvis, and Elvis got to $253 million, whereas Bullet Train needs to get to $225. You can see why it's still possible. It's still within the realm of possibility, but the likelihood not nearly as strong as it could be. And again, that makes me sad because I think it's a fun time, and maybe we'll see a stronger than expected hold. Maybe we will see a stronger international showing for this movie. And hey, maybe in a few weeks, we'll be having the same discussion that we were able to have about Elvis a few weeks ago, about it overperforming, about it having strong holds, even in the midst of competition. And hey, if you have not seen it yet, I would highly recommend it. But what are your thoughts about Bullet Train? Do you think Bullet Train is going to be able to have a similar trajectory of Elvis, being able to start off a little bit slow, but because of it having consistent gains throughout the weeks, be able to actually hit its break-even point, make some profit? Or do you think that it's going to probably be a middling film and maybe end up being a very small financial loss for them in the long run? Again, let me know your thoughts about that and anything else I mentioned in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, slap that fire button on Odyssey. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my Keeper of the Bifrost and Chosen of Valhalla members over on Patreon, Subscribestar, and Locals. Starting off with my Patreon supporters, we got Chris from the 80s, who you can check out on YouTube, Garrett Searles, Hymir Irie Hymason, Jeff Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Laura, The Modern Major General Story, Father Luca Illick, Orange Hat Reviews, who you can also check out on YouTube, Rosetta Allen, whose YouTube channel's name is Eagle Rider, Stan Andrian, Miss Martin Muses, who also has a YouTube channel, and the Empress of the Universe, Tina B, who you can check out on her show that she does with the amazing Stephanie B, my Valkyrie, on a show called Soup to Nuts on Tina B's channel. Also to my Subscribestar peeps, we got Matt317, who you can support over on Twitch, same name, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Mr. Roy, J-Rod, The Beer Guru, and ZK Man, who you can support over at xtheboundaries.co. And lastly, to my Locals members, we got Miss Minnesota Hockey Fan, How About a Hockey Player? We have UAB Mad Dog Mike Jackson for the win, Brett D90, and Robert Barnes, who most people should know about at this point, so go support him over at InfoWars, YouTube, and all the other locations that he is at. But if you want your name shouted out at the end of every single video and live stream, check out that top link in the video description. Finds out all the places that you can follow me on social media, and also all the various platforms that you can support the channel, which include not only shoutouts, but also access to giveaways of 4K titles, Blu-rays, tons of other stuff like that, digital codes, and then also a way to get access to being featured on the channel once a month for the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, where we're talking about movies, pop culture, and pretty much anything the Chosen want to talk about. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, check out the video description. There's also access to a podcast that I do with John the Flick Pig Flickinger once or twice a month. And don't worry, if you were wondering where the July episode is, because of scheduling conflicts, especially with John, we were not able to get that done, but we will have 2 episodes this month to make up for it, so don't you worry about that. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.